joining us once again. Last time we spoke with him was in advance of the season, I believe, in advance of his trip to Michigan. I told him to take it easy on my team. You didn't, Coach. You didn't, but nonetheless, happy to have you back, Steve Sarkisian. Good to see you.
Appreciate you having me on, Rich.
Here we are, months later, man, and you're getting set to take on Clemson in the first round of the college football playoffs. Your impression of that SEC championship game is what? A few days removed, Coach.
Physical. That was a war, and Kirby's done a great job at Georgia, and I think as you go through this and you go through first year in the SEC, and the challenges that conference presents, not only physically but mentally. We went 5 straight weeks there at the end of the season where we had 2 road games versus 2 rivals that were renewed, going to Arkansas and then finishing up the regular season at A&M. And then the very next week going to Atlanta, essentially for a 3rd road game to try to win an SEC championship against Georgia. So very taxing. But I think we learned a lot about ourselves as a team. I feel like we could play with anybody in the country. Wish we would have played a little better last Saturday, but it was a heck of a game going all the way into overtime. And so I think we're kind of in the right mental state to get ready to go attack this college football playoff.
Well, I mean, again, I know the result wasn't what you wanted, but if I told you before the season you're going to play in the SEC championship game, you're going to have a ticket in the tournament, you'd have taken that, right? I mean, like that's what you would have taken.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Again, I would have like to maybe execute it a little better in the red zone last Saturday and try to win the game. But in the end, you learn a lot about yourselves as a staff and as a team and where you can improve. I think the way the college football season is set up now, it's long. We started August 31st and we're trying to play January 20th. And we've got 4 more games to go to get there. And so you're never not trying to improve and find ways to get better, whether it's schematically or fundamentally, and we have room for improvement, and that's what we'll be working on this week as we get ready for Clemson here a week from Saturday.
Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian here on the Rich Eisen Show. I mean, you mentioned that crucible of a 3-week stretch, Arkansas, then that scene in Texas A&M. My Lord, I know folks there in Texas, missed that rivalry for sure. Fans did. Now it's back. What a scene that was. You came out with the win, then you go to the SEC championship game and go to overtime, and you've got 4 games that you got to navigate in a span of less than a month. And I'm wondering if you think this has got you road tested. I mean, you know what it's like to win back-to-back games in the playoffs, what you have to do in the playoffs, just certainly, obviously, from your time in the NFL, you know what you have to do for that. Do you think that you're best equipped to come out of that non-bye week spot? You're one of 8 teams that has to win 4 in a row. So does that help you, do you think, Steve?
Well, I mean, I think we're in a good spot. Buys are great. And essentially, we got a buy this week to try to get ourselves healthy. I wanted to win an SEC championship, don't get me wrong. And I would have loved a first-round buy. So I don't want to misconstrue what I'm about to say. But, when you play that first weekend in December and then you don't play again until January 1st, that's a challenge in and of itself of keeping your team sharp and fresh and attentive to the details and executing at a high level. So in a weird way, we're pretty fortunate that, yes, we did get the bye before our first round game. And then essentially we get another 10 days or so before the next one. So I think we'll find a pretty good rhythm and routine. But again, we need to get fresh and healthy this week. But we get back to playing football a little sooner. And so we're going to try to take advantage of it that way.
And I know when we spoke earlier in the season, you were saying that it's possible you and a lot of your colleagues in college football might start resting some guys middle of the season, towards the end of the season, because you have this stretch coming up. Obviously, that wasn't guaranteed for you until you did win towards the end of the season. Did you actually coach differently this time around, knowing that you might have this stretch coming up?
Well, I think the one thing that we adjusted was definitely our practice plans and schedules and just the length of the season, the amount of games you have to play. I think is always challenging. We're going to play 17 games, hopefully. And, that's much different than before. And so I think managing your player workload on a week-to-week basis, managing your days off and when you're giving them some days off to get away from the facility to kind of regroup and kind of recenter themselves, have been really the main things that we've adjusted. Naturally, as the season's gone on, we've had to make some critical decisions on players that were nursing injuries of potentially holding them out or not, or limiting their role to try to get them as healthy as we could for this stretch run. But nowhere did we ever just intentionally hold anybody out. We never went to that extreme.
One of the managed players, is it Quinn Ewers? Would you say he's one of them?
Oh yeah, we've definitely had to manage him throughout the season. He got injured early in the season, came back, had to nurse an ankle injury here the latter half of the season. I think he's responded to it really well. I give him a lot of credit of how he's managed that. But we've been dealing with that with a handful of players. We have not been 100%. Every year it's different. What happens to your team, the injuries that may occur, and we've definitely endured some, most notably on the offensive side of the ball. But I think our guys have responded to it, week in and week out really well.
And so, how do you think Ewers looks now? I mean, because that is part of the conversation from people in my chair, is that he has not looked certainly like the kid that I saw against Michigan. How does he look to you going into this playoffs?
I think it's twofold. When you're not 100%, you have to manage that. And I thought he was able to use his legs a little bit better here the last couple weeks. Where I think we need to improve is we got to keep trying to play better around him. We were not, when our running game's not going, we become somewhat of a limited offensive football team, and we've got to make sure that we find that right balance. We've got to make sure that we protect the passer well. Got to make sure we're catching the balls. We got to make sure we're disciplined in our routes. We got to make sure as a coaching staff we're putting together a good plan that allows him to play to that level. And then he's got to do his part too. And so in the end, I think like anything, you're the quarterback at the University of Texas, you probably get a little more credit than we deserve when we play well, and you probably get too much blame when you lose a ball game in overtime against a Georgia, who arguably is the best defense in the country. So all in all, that comes with the territory, but I credit Quinn a ton for how he's handled everything and managed it and stayed focused on the task at hand, and that's playing really good football and being a great teammate and a great leader.
I know in terms of managing somebody and potentially a banged up person as well, it doesn't usually mean take him off the field. But what about using Arch Manning more, Coach?
Yeah, no, there's always opportunities to do that, and I think we found opportunities to do that against A&M and against Georgia. Arch is a great player, and he's a great teammate as well, and so we're fortunate to have both those guys in that room and utilizing some of his strengths when those opportunities present themselves.
So, but how do you manage that? Because conversations again in worlds like this outside your building get to be had, certainly when he's taking snaps, and man, he looks so physical and he's so fast, he's so big, and what advantage you might have when you employ him. I mean, he took the first snap for you in overtime in the SEC championship game, Coach. But how do you manage that, knowing it might cause questions, but it might also be quite helpful for you, but it's also one of those, you got two, you might have none scenario?
I'd like to disagree with you on the last statement.
Okay.
We got two, and we're pretty good. So we're fortunate on that. I think at the end is, I try not to consume myself with what y'all think. We focus on the task at hand, and that's doing what's in the best interest of the team to win ball games. If I kind of led the emotional roller coaster of what other people think, I'd be an emotional nightmare, because in one aspect I can read one article that says, Quinn's the greatest thing since whomever, and then next article is, why don't you play Arch, and this and that, and you can go back and forth all the way around and listen to talk radio and watch every show and whomever else, or you can focus on the people in your building, keep your head down, make sure that you're providing the right type of motivation and leadership for them so that they can follow your lead. And I think our guys have done a great job of that. And that's why it's no secret. We're in the college football playoff. We went to the SEC championship game. We were really the third ranked team in the CFP, but because of the way they seed the teams with automatic bids, we go in as a fifth seed. And I feel really good about our opportunity to go out and compete for a national championship. So I'm really not one to kind of buy into the opinions of others or the criticism of others that I would never ask for advice from.
I know you had the signing period. You also had portal and everything around the SEC championship game. My Lord! But have you been able to start a grinded tape on Clemson so far? And if so, what are you seeing?
It was a challenging time, while everybody else was getting ready for signing day, we were preparing for an SEC championship game, and then you come out of that SEC championship game and you find out, okay, you're the 5 seed, and on that Monday the portal opens, and so now you're concerned with your own player retention, but also concerned about who might be going in the portal and how you can help the roster. But all the while, I'm watching Clemson tape, and I'm watching a team that has gotten better and better as the years gone on. A very active defense, very active defensive front, a highly competitive quarterback in Cade Klubnik, a young wide receiver in Wesco who they found opportunities more for, and a really physical runner. So I feel like they've gotten better as the years gone on. They've earned an opportunity to be in this college football playoff, and it's going to be a heck of a challenge. We're fortunate that we get them at home.
No, I've spoken to 2 of your colleagues, Josh Heupel, Rhett Lashley. They're in college football playoff territory as well. Like you, Lashley had to get ready for a conference championship game around the signing day, and then right after it's the portal. That's nuts, man. I mean, I think we can all agree that is absolutely nuts. You've got enough on your plate, clearly. All the questions that I've asked you already, I mean, that is proof that you got a lot on your plate. Who can make these changes? I mean, name me another sport where you're in the playoffs and you got to worry about free agency, and you got to, like, your new league year is opened up during the playoffs. That's crazy.
Let's just think about the NFL playoffs starting up here in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And let's just think right when the playoffs begin, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, whomever else, they're all free agents. How would that go?
Not great. Not great.
Yeah, that's the world we're living right now.
But who can change it? I know that you can't. You can only control what you can control, and I know you're getting ready for Clemson, but enough people like yourself can get together, right, and say, let's do something about this calendar.
Well, I mean, we continue to try to. I know us as coaches, we've got our own thoughts and opinions on that. Obviously, there's an academic calendar that makes some of this stuff challenging. And there's lawsuits and all sorts of stuff going on. And we're trying to embark on revenue sharing and a lot of different things and collectives. And there's so many layers to this. But the timing, I think, of it all is just what's really poor. And we got 2 different entities operating. The college football playoff is operating as one. The NCAA and the rules and a settlement is operating as another, and they're just not coinciding the right way right now. But it is what it is. I mean, we can sit in here and complain about it, or do the best we can to maximize the situation that we're in. And hey, again, I've got champagne problems. We're a team that's playing in the college football playoff that just competed for an SEC championship. We've got a really good roster. We just signed the number 1 recruiting class in the country. So again, we feel really good about the position we're in. But again, do I think it could be better? Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, first class problems, champagne problems, no doubt about it. Before I let you go, you just described the crazy world in which you live in, but you and Texas are thriving in with NIL and portal and signing day and conference championship and getting ready for the college football playoffs, which is a reason why a lot of people think only a certain type of coach can be cut out for college football. What is your thoughts, your 2 cents on Bill Belichick joining the world of college football? He's now a college football coaching colleague of yours, Steve Sarkisian, in North Carolina. What are your thoughts on this?
Fascinated. I'm fascinated by it. Obviously, ton of respect for Coach Belichick and the job he's done his entire career. I think we're all better coaches, quite frankly, because of what he's been able to do and studying him, and whether it's offense, defense, management of rosters, all the stuff, and obviously my time with Coach Saban and the connection with those 2. But fascinating that he's back now and coming to college football and trying to implement some of those things there. So ton of respect for the job he's done. I'm sure he'll do a great job there, but I think from most perspectives, and I don't know everybody, but ours in our building for sure, it's fascinating to see and to watch, and how's this project going to go?
Yeah, I know, right? Was he around when you were in Alabama? Did he show up on campus, practices, Zooms or whatever with Coach Saban?
Pro days for sure.
Sure.
He in and out of the pro days, and I actually had a couple conversations with him this offseason about our schedule now, because I think our calendar and our schedule is more, from a team perspective and a college football playoff perspective, is a little more NFL driven. And so I was trying to pick his brain on that. I had no idea that he'd be coming our way and getting into the college game.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, that is amazing how life works sometimes. Would you mind, what did he tell you? What insight did you gain from him?
Well, it was just more about, here's a guy that's, went year after year after year and had these long stretches of a season, right? The preseason, the regular season, and year in and year out they're in the Super Bowl or the championship game, and how he managed his team. And I think, you talk to a Bill Belichick and Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, guys now that have, year in and year out been in those positions, of just how they manage the workloads of their roster and their team, and how they practiced and got them ready to play. And so that was stuff I was trying to dig into to make sure that we were in a really good frame of mind and physically, mentally, emotionally come December. And I think it's paid off for us.
Okay. And so do you listen, I know he's got a gajillion rings and things of that nature, and he's been at it since 1975 in the NFL. But this is, you're the college coach here with experience and success. Do you have any advice for him now? If he picked your brain, what would that be, Steve?
Wow. Hire good recruiters. Yeah. It's not a draft, that's for sure. It's not a draft.
Well, it's not a draft, huh? You don't just get to, it's my pick and I get to get you, and now you're under contract for 4 years with $1+, right?
It doesn't work like that for us, that's for sure.
Okay, Coach. Hey, listen, thanks for the time, as always. It's a pleasure to connect with you. My wife, Susie Schuster, said to say hello to you, and she's like, who's on your show today? I'm like, it's Sark. She goes, tell Sark I said hi. So now I have done so.
You guys are the best. Appreciate you, Rich.
Thanks, man. Good luck against Clemson and beyond. And we'll chat again soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
You bet. That's Steve Sarkisian of Texas Longhorns football right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Get good recruiters. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.